Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the show. We are climbing up to 300, episode 398. Today's November 29th, 2023. Full swing into the college wrestling season. I'm excited about today's guest. He's a freshman at the University of Iowa and had a big win this past weekend for the Hawks, sealing a win, essentially, over Iowa State. It's Gabe Arnold. Gabe, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, baby?
Man, I'm fantastic. If I was any better, I'd be you. And I definitely want to get to this season and last weekend and what the future holds. But I do want to kind of go back and I know some of your story. I know your dad was a standout wrestler in Missouri. I was watching him as I was coming up as a younger kid. You grew up in Georgia. Like, what was your introduction to wrestling? Was it early on? Was it like right away you were into it, or were you kind of around it? And just kind of how'd you get things going?
Yeah, so I actually started wrestling, I think the first time. So my brother started wrestling in high school, and he wrestled for his high school. And so at that time, whatever Big Brother did, I wanted to do.
Yep.
So I ended up joining when I was like, I want to say I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. There was a local college there called Darton, and they had a youth program. So I started going to the youth program, and then my brother, for extra, started to wrestle there as well. So I first tried it out then, and just wasn't for me yet. I went to my first tournament and got pinned, but I still got a medal. So I thought it was one of the coolest things ever. And, I was like, my brother ended up getting a third place medal, but I got a second place medal. And I was like, oh, I'm better than you. But so the journey kind of first started there. And after that first tournament, me and my parents kind of decided, mainly my parents were just like, yeah, like, this just isn't for him yet. Maybe along down the road it will be, but, just not. So wrestling for me kind of just disappeared. I would still, me and my parents would still go watch my brother wrestle in high school events. And I got back into it my fourth grade year when my dad started up his own club, Alpha Omega, down in South Georgia. And so the journey kind of started from there. I got back into it fourth grade year, and I've been sticking with it ever since.
So I think you said 5 or 6, and then there's probably like a 5-year gap because fourth grade's about 10 years old. As you were going to your brother's matches, did you think maybe you would join back in, or was it you're just 7 and 8 years old and you're not really thinking about the future?
Yeah, I think that's honestly what it was. Like, I didn't think that I was going to get back into it. At that time, I wasn't really with the whole beating the piss out of somebody thing. I was a big mama's boy and, still am. So, that just wasn't my thing just yet. And, just like having to like basically hit somebody, just definitely wasn't my cup of tea at the time. So yeah, it definitely wasn't one of those things that I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to be back into this. But I remember just when I was younger, watching my brother and stuff, I just always thought it was just super cool. And for the longest, my dad wanted to keep, me and my brother out of it just because of, and for him, he didn't get what he had a sour taste in his mouth from the sport. He ended up going to Mizzou, left Mizzou. I think he ended up getting kicked out or something. And then he went to a couple other schools. And the last school he went to, he ended up blowing out his knee, and that ended his wrestling career. So he had a very sour taste in his mouth from the sport, and just tried to keep me and my brother away from it as long as he could. And obviously Jaden, my cousin Jaden Cox, was obviously doing his thing back in Missouri, winning state titles left and right, just beating the piss out of fools. And, just I think from there, everything, once my dad saw how Jaden was doing, I think the sour taste kind of slowly, left his mouth. And, he was just like, why not let the boys get into it, So, yeah.
I get the sour, it's unforgiving, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal. It doesn't care about your wrestling, right? Doesn't care about your feelings, doesn't care how hard you worked, doesn't care how much it means to you.
Absolutely.
It's gonna, I mean, everybody, I'm sure Kale has matches he looked back and wishes he would, whatever, right? Everybody probably wishes they could have done a little better. So that makes sense. Once you got into it at 10 or fourth grade, what drew you back in, and what eventually like hooked you, right? What was the hook that like, oh, was it a win? Was it a practice? Was it a ice cream afterwards? Whatever. Maybe there was something that, okay, this was the moment where I was like, I love it.
Yeah. Man, that's a good one. I think for me, I enjoyed it. Like I was around like 10 years old, like you said, when I got back into it, and I just started to just love the grind more than anything. Like I like being and just in the fashion that I was doing it. I got to do it with my dad as my coach at the time, and to me that was just a really special thing, and still really a really special thing. To have my dad as my coach for I think it was for another what 3 4 years maybe, just to have that relationship with him was it was undescribable. And one thing my dad I think my dad did really well was that he never really like crossed the line of being one of those super crazy wrestling dads that are like, you need to do this, you need to do this. It was just everything, all the extra workouts, all the extra practices, all the time I spent watching wrestling on my phone when I was a kid at that age, and still do. All of that was on my own time, and I think my dad doing that was honestly what just made me love it. It's that it was just on my own time. I got to go hard when I wanted to. Obviously, dad ran his own club, and I was kind of expected for the coach's son to be there, but just all of that was on me. Being the best wrestler I could be was on me, not on my dad, not what my dad wanted for me, but what I wanted for me. So I think more than anything, my dad was who really brought that love out of me, just letting everything be on my own time. And, whenever I wanted to decide to fully devote myself to it, that was on me, and just, I keep reiterating that just because I think it's so important nowadays that kids get to decide their own route, and I think a lot of kids get burnt out because of their parents. And yeah, I just think that was something my dad did a really good job of, not letting me get burnt out. So
Yeah, and you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head. I was thinking what you said, how important it is, what the way you describe your dad's relationship, and how he brought you up, and like fostering you, but not, and maybe pushing you, but not pushing you too hard, right? And
absolutely.
can you maybe just get into that a little more? Did you guys have discussions? Did he ever say, "Hey, do you want to be good? This is how to do it," or was it just like, "I'll just let him figure this all out, and when he wants to step on the gas, he's gonna step on the gas"?
Yeah, it was actually a little bit of both. When so I want to say I was obviously really good coming up through the youth scene, and obviously I was younger, so I didn't take taking losses very well. And I honestly think that was where I really learned the most from him. Just when I would take those losses, I was just a complete emotional like distraught. I was just like, screw this, I hate this, like this is awful. I'm just like, what the heck, dude? Like, why am I losing? And just, I think those talks with him is what I value the most. It's just like, if you want this, like, you got to go get it. And just one that really sticks out to me, I want to say, so my first year, I went to the youth state tournament in Georgia. I didn't place. I had ended up going like 6-2 in the state tournament, like as a youth kid, and nothing to show for it. But I think that next year I made it to the state finals, and I actually lost to a kid that was kind of like my training partner a little bit, because I did some there was this tournament in Kingsport, Tennessee called AAU Youth National Duels. And at that time, it was a really big youth national duel tournament. A lot of teams came. You had teams like Illinois Menace, the Michigan teams came. Just all those guys, would be there. And so this kid was on that duel team with me. We wrestled for Moore's Fitness together, which is a Georgia team ran by Coach Charlie Morris, which is still one of my greatest coaches and one of my dad's best friends. And I remember I made it to the state finals that year, and I actually lost in the state finals. Ended up getting pinned by this kid named Javen Hall. And to me, I was just really upset. It just sucked being so close to a goal that I had of mine. And just didn't happen for me. And that week before, or that week, we were getting ready for the state tournament, and I actually missed the rep of, like, I can't remember what we were doing. I want to say maybe it was like burpees or something, just getting ready for the state tournament. And I missed the rep of something, and my dad was like, "You didn't get that last rep," and I'm like, "Yes, I did. Yes, I did." And I just kept like trying to convince him that I got this last rep. At this time, like, I just wanted the practice to be done. And I remember my dad told me that practice. He's like, "It may not affect you now, but like, you not getting this last rep is gonna like affect you in the long run." I'm like, "No, it's not. Like, whatever, dude. Like, you're delusional. You have no clue what you're talking about. Whatever." Fast forward to the state tournament, I end up getting pinned, and my dad brought that up to me. He's like, I told you that last rep matters. It's not because of just finishing a workout, but when you short yourself when you're doing, X, Y, and Z, you can't expect for the result to be this big, great, awesome thing. So I think for me, that was one of the big things that stood out to me in my wrestling career was that I can't short myself. And whenever I do short myself, I'm not going to get what I want at the end of the day, because that's not how wrestling works. That's not how life works. When I shortcut myself, I can't expect myself to reach my goals ultimately. So I definitely think it was just more than anything. It wasn't what the wrestling moves or the cool wrestling techniques that he taught me, but more than anything, it was just the philosophy that he instilled in me that I still, I still use to this day. So.
That's awesome. And how old were you when you had that conversation about missing the rep?
I was, so about 10, probably about 12 years old, I want to say. So, because I want to say, I was 13 when I won my first state title in Georgia. So 12 years old.
So 12 years old and a conversation that's impacted you till now and maybe will on through the rest of your life. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you win your first state title at 13. You're getting, you're closing in on time to go to high school. You end up going to Wyoming Seminary, but how did that happen? And when did those discussions come up? Because leaving home's a big deal as a young teenager.
Yeah, leaving home at 14 is a huge ask, especially, I was never held back or anything. So I never had that experience of oh, I'm super old and now I'm leaving the house. No, I was still a baby. I was still a mama's boy at this time. So, leaving home was definitely a hard decision, but I think the conversation started to, surround me and my dad towards our my end of my 7th grade year, I want to say. And we're just thinking about schools and stuff. We're just I have no clue where we're going to go, all this. And at the end of the day, it just came down to, where am I going to get the best competition, get to wrestle the best guys, get the most exposure? Because let's be honest, there's not a lot of exposure for wrestling in the South in Georgia, but there was obviously a few options there back home. We had Woodland High School, where you got a lot of guys who are showing out in the college scene right now, like Cade McCrary, Caleb Hinton, Jackson Smith. All those guys went to Woodland, and it was right down the street from me. So we peeked and looked at that school for a little bit. Another school in Georgia was Woodward Academy. A lot of guys, Matthew Singleton, which obviously me and Matthew have a lot of history besides just being training partners for a long part of our career. Michael Killick, he went there as well. So I had a lot of in-state options, but me and my parents mainly me and my dad, we didn't know if, staying in the state was the best, idea for me and the best, option for me as my future continued and as I continued to better myself in the sport. So we ended up, deciding to look at some other schools, and actually Scott Green reached out to my dad around, the end of my 7th grade year, kind of shot out a text message and stuff. I don't remember exactly what it said, just because it's been so long ago. I'm sure if I asked him, he'd know right off the top of his head. Uh-huh. But so, the relationship with Scott and my dad kind of started there, and, they kept going back and forth and talking, throughout my 8th grade year, and as we're slowly starting to hone in on where we're going to go to school at. And so I visited a lot of prep schools. I visited at Baylor and Tennessee, visited there, Northfield Mount Herman, visited there, and then obviously visited Wyoming Seminary as well. So we only visited those 3 prep schools, if I'm remembering correctly. And after weighing everything out, as much as it was just uncommon for me, a 14-year-old kid, to leave home, we just thought it was the best decision for me and, my longevity in the sport, honestly. And so we took that big leap, and honestly, I would say it paid off. So
yeah. Like you said, 14 years old, deciding to leave, and you're a mama's boy at this time, self-proclaimed mama's boy. What excited you the most about this, what the future may lie, and what was the scariest or uncertain, right? How am I going to live on my own? I'm 14. Who's going to fold my laundry? Who's going to do, how do I get through life, right? I mean, most people at 14, it's hard to bust out on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely wasn't the most mature 14-year-old in the world. I still had my immature tendencies. And, I'm still a kid more than anything.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, I mean, you kind of explained it. My excitement and my hesitancy was both leaving home. Yes, I don't get to be under my parents anymore. I can kind of do what I want, and at the same time, it was like, oh my God, I'm leaving home. No more parents there. 25/8. Like, this is kind of scary. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's funny that those are both like the things I was most looking forward to and things I was most hesitant about. And yeah, so I think it was just it went back and forth, and just obviously it was just a super scary experience. But I knew that it was just one of those things I had to do, and I had to put big boy pants on and go to work, especially if I had all these goals that I said I did, and I wanted to do all these things. Then I had to go do it, and I had to take that big leap of faith. I did, and my parents did as well. So
when you got there, like, did it force you to, I guess, grow up fast, or just like, how did you change over that first year or two?
yeah, you get there, and it forces you. Like, you don't have a choice, because if you don't grow up right away, then you're going to be falling behind the curve completely. You're not going to, your grades aren't going to be good. You're going to have dirty laundry all over your dorm room, and your roommate's going to be like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
So it's just like, if you don't have all these things figured out, as the year goes on, like I said, you're going to fall behind the curve. And thankfully, I had such great coaches there. I had Scott Green, obviously, which is still a great coach of mine. I still keep in contact with. Coach named Greg Hagel, just a big part of, I would honestly say, one of the biggest parts of my development at SEM. He put a lot of time into me and Colby Franklin. Colby Franklin was a part of the club that Coach Hagel ran, and just he poured a lot of time and effort into both of us just to make sure we had everything we needed on the mat and off the mat. He would take our phones at night, so that way we fell asleep on time. He would do like, we had room checks, obviously, to make sure our room was clean by like our RAs and stuff, but like my room would get checked like 2 to 3 times a week by him, just to make sure like I was crossing my T's and dotting my I's, making sure we're doing homework. Like, we would have study hall at Sim, but he would have like his own separate study hall with just me and Colby, just to make sure we're getting all the work done that we need to, and make sure we're not falling behind that curve. So thankfully, I had such great coaches there, as well. I had Joe Ravelli, Coach Weber, Coach Heck, that whole coaching staff there, and some of those guys are still there. Coach Ravelli's still there, Coach Weber's still there, Coach Heck is still there. So yeah, I had just such a great, support staff there, that it was, as even though like falling behind the curve was an option, it wasn't at the same time. And a little bit, my grades slipped a little bit, just because like another big thing that people don't think about is time management. When you're by yourself, you're like, I just want to go hang out and just do whatever, like go practice and then say screw the schoolwork and just go hang out with friends for the rest of the night. Like, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I tried to do that, and just grades just didn't look too well. Me and Scott had some good conversations, a lot of good conversations, and me and my mom had a lot of good conversations as well. Probably some that probably weren't the sweetest conversations in the world, but definitely needed. But yeah, I mean, tough life. But yeah, so it was hard to fall behind that curve, just because I had, I'm just so grateful for, the coaching staff that I had there, just because, they kept me in check more than anything. I honestly think if I didn't have those guys there on my ass, excuse my language, 25/8, I don't think I'd be nearly to where I am now.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it, is the development into a man, into becoming an adult off of the mat, time management, all these things. How about on the mat? At Wyoming Seminary, where did you develop the most, or how did you get better?
Yeah. So I think one thing that I've just always thought of, that I think has made things super simple for me in my wrestling, was that no matter which level I'm jumping to, there's always going to be a bigger challenge. So that's kind of what I embraced going into my high school year as well. I knew that this wasn't going to be the Virginia Beach National Duels. No, this is the Ironman High School National Tournament, one of the best tournaments in the freaking country. It's one of the toughest tournaments in the country. made arguably the toughest.
Yeah.
So I mean, I knew that there was going to be this new tougher level, and I obviously knew I had to get better, but I also knew that I also had what it took to compete with these guys. Because I mean, I grew up wrestling with Jackson Smith, Caleb Henson, Caden McCrary, Cole Cochran, just Matthew Singleton, Michael Kalick, like list goes on and on and on of all these guys that I had in the room, and just I think it started there, and just developing my skills started there with those group of guys, because those guys would beat the ever living piss out of me. Like if we had a camera of the room of how many times I got foot swept by like Caleb Henson and Jackson Smith, like dude, like it'd just be a highlight reel of just me just falling to my back every 2 seconds. You're just like, Gabe, what happened? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like I was in on a shot, and then he brought me up, and then I kind of got put to my back, and that was the end of it. So it started there. I think just I had that, and just wrestling with those guys started there, and I obviously knew I still had to get better. And then once I got to Sim, like I said, Hagel poured a lot of time into Colby and and just I think he really helped hone my skills a little bit. Just because in middle school, I was kind of like the super flashy kid. I wanted to hit the super duck, the big throw, cool inside trip. I wanted to do all that stuff, and it worked out, obviously, and I was still pretty good at what I did, or else I probably wouldn't have went to Wyoming Seminary. But it's just that was one of those things. It's called junk now, as you would think it's called junk, but I kind of had to push it to the side a little bit and just focus in on some bigger things, like holding positioning really well, hand fighting, getting off bottom, like all these things that just I knew that I had to do. But when I got there, everything just kind of just fell into place. I mean, almost perfectly. Like I just felt myself getting better, And it was also another one of those things that was hard not to get better, because I was in a room with freaking Connor Keeveman, Lapid McNeil, Bo Bartlett, Nico Ketsuyoshi. I'm probably forgetting a lot of names right now, but I mean that room that we had my freshman year was like there was no like easy workout. Like you were gonna get what you needed in, and it was gonna be a tough day no matter what you thought, what your expectation was. Maybe you thought like, oh, if I go with this guy, I'm gonna have an easy workout. Like there was just no way you could hide in that room. And even with the guys that weren't on the starting lineup, we had the blue and white team. Guys that we had on our white team, like those guys are like we put those guys in the lineup at the time, like they'd be 10 national ranked guys. Like coming in, like it was like people talk about now, like how in college they didn't score a point. Like I didn't score a point like my first couple of weeks of high school, dude. Like I had this vivid memory of freaking Bo Bartlett, Bo's thing my freshman year. Bo was a senior when I got there, and his thing was that I'm gonna headlock all the freshmen. And sure enough, he headlocked all the freshmen. I have this like vivid memory of him. Like we're going live one day, and Bo's like, "Gabe, you and I are going." I'm thinking to myself like, all right, dude, like at this time, I'm weighing about 175. I'm like, there's no way like Bo's going to beat the piss out of me. I don't think I even got off bottom, dude. Like, only time I got off bottom was when Scott, he'd be like, all right, that was a minute ago, same partner. All right, now you're just, you're wrestling again, but you get to be on your feet, So I'm like, Jesus. Like, and I remember just Bo, like, had an underhook, and I'm like, oh, yeah, like, this is where I'm going to get him. And just Bo just threw the living piss out of me. Like, feet are in the air, we're wrestling in this bank at Wyoming Seminary. So I'm like staring at the ceiling, looking at the chandelier. So I'm just like, it came back to me about these levels that I knew I had to jump. Obviously when you get better at the sport, there's levels. There's levels to this, and that was one of the levels I realized I needed to get better at. And I definitely think that's overall that's how I got better. Just I had a great group of people surrounding me. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Did he headlock you?
Oh yeah, he headlocked the piss out of me. That's what the me looking at the chandelier. Yeah, that's he got me. He got me good.
All right. So you leave high school to go. I think pretty much anybody who goes to a prep school, or especially Wyoming Seminary, is like the goal is to wrestle in college, or maybe the ultimate, or beyond. Did you from a young age think Iowa? Did you kind of look around at some point, and how did you ultimately decide that, hey, I want to be a Hawkeye?
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, I was always a Mizzou fan. You know, how could I not be? You know,
MIZ.
Jaden went there. Yeah, Jaden went there. You know, my dad went there. My grandma still lives there, lives right down the street from the university. So, I mean, for me, that was like a lot of kids have their dream schools, and I think for me, that was kind of like my dream school, just because that's kind of all I really knew. You know, just because I had a really great relationship with Coach Brian Smith. At the time, Coach Clemson was still there. I had a great relationship with him. Coach Mellon was still there. You know, just I had a great relationship with all those guys there, and just it made sense. You know, like to me, that was my dream school. So Iowa didn't really come into the picture until recruiting day, June 15th. You know, what was it? My sophomore year. Just I want to say Terry was the one. Yeah, or no, yeah. Terry was the one who called me on day one of recruiting day, and it was just I was like, dude, like this is super cool. Like I was calling me and all this. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, you know. And just I don't think I really wanted to be a Hawk until my visit. Honestly, I just never pictured myself being here. I guess just because, like I said, I always thought of myself being a Tiger, you know, and repping, you know, MIZ, ZOU, and just because that was home. You know, that's what I knew. And just one thing that I've learned from leaving my own home to go to Sim is that, you know, it's okay not to be at home, and, you know, it's okay to have a different venture, a different journey than, you know, my dad or my brother or my cousin, you know. So I think, yeah, that's when I didn't really come into the picture until after my visit. And, you know, I just had a great visit, and I love the coaches. I love the guys on the team. And, you know, it made sense for me to be a Hawk. And, you know, that's where I felt like I fit in and where I knew that I was going to grow the most at. So.
Yeah, you said you didn't really. It wasn't until your visit that you were like, "Oh yeah." What was it? You know, what happened on your visit, or what was it about your visit that you were like, "Oh, this is a spot"? Or when did you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny because honestly, I would say it was my worst visit just because I was actually sick going there.
Oh no.
And I felt like absolutely awful. I was like super stuffed up. Like it was just terrible. But it's funny because me and Colby came together on our officials, and that night we almost missed our connecting flight to fly into Cedar Rapids, and we were like scrambling, like we had to rush there, run there just to get to the just to get to the gate. So we almost missed the flight to even come here in the first place. That was number one. And then number two, I felt really bad. I was just super sick. I just wasn't really feeling myself. I was just didn't feel good. But I just think, honestly, just the visit as a whole, just like I got to see how the guys interacted with the team, and to me, it didn't feel like anything was staged. You know, it was just like just how they were. You know, and just Jacob Warner was my host, and I love Jacob. Jacob's still like he's super cool, and just you know, it was just cool seeing them interact just normally. Like they weren't putting on a show. There was nothing flashy about it. Like it was just like how these guys are, and just I remember talking to Tom and Terry and Morningstar and Telford. You know, they talk to the kids individually, and just you know the way they talked to me, they talked to me like I was already there. You know, like I was already on the team, and just they were so honest and just so upfront about everything. You know, they were like, you know, we see great things for you. And, you know, we think that you're going to be the guy, one of those guys that can be an immediate impact for this team. And, you know, just the way they talked to me, it just felt like I was just like, wow, you know, and just they were just so honest, so upfront. You know, I was like, why wouldn't I want these guys, you know, coaching for me and, you know, fighting for every single point, you know, like, why wouldn't I? So it just felt like a no-brainer. So I guess you could say after that talk with the coaches, you know, that's when I was like, this is where I need to be. And then obviously tons of kids committed on that trip. You know, I think like Riggins committed, Jerseroga committed. There was just a lot of like big commits like that came out of that trip. Keeter committed. It's funny because Keeter committed on that trip, but he didn't announce it until a little bit later. So yeah, it was just one of them. And then I was like, dang, dude, like, should I commit too? I'm like, oh my God, everyone's doing this. Like, I've never seen this before. So yeah, I guess you could say that's when I knew like I wanted to be a Hawk. So
Yeah. So let's get into this season and maybe even last week. You know, you're a 174 pounder. What was the talk heading into Ames, right? You know it's a big duel. You know it's Iowa State. You know they got a good team. You know it's there's all these things, ESPN. you know, 1 week out, what do they say? Hey, you're coming with us. You're gonna weigh in, or do you want to come in? Is it a discussion? Is it a
Yeah.
question? Is it like this is what's happening?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the week went as normal. It was Thanksgiving week, so actually, not didn't go as normal. Actually, a little bit different because of Thanksgiving. But I mean, I was just preparing myself to wrestle MJ. I knew the guy was tricky. I was just planning on just that happening. I was gonna wrestle 74. Just like I was like just getting myself ready and pumped up. And one thing that I think I do sometimes, what I do is I try to find motivation like in these like things. And one day I was on the internet and I just happened to see. It's funny. I just happened to see something that Dresser said, and it said I actually have it on my lock screen. I made it like I said. I try to find motivation and stuff. And Dresser was talking about the 74 match between me and MJ, and it says Dresser said he's excited for that match. That guy better come ready. So that was my motivation, like heading into the weekend at Wrestling 74. And I was just like, oh, that was kind of like the prod to me. I was like, I'm ready. Like, the thing is with me, I'm always ready. I'm always ready to go. Like, you tell me to do X, Y, Z, I'm gonna go do it. So that was what poked me a little bit. Because I was like, oh yeah, like this is gonna be a fun weekend. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to put some points on the board. I'm just ready to do what I do and just put the world on notice even more than I did the week before. So I was just getting ready for that, getting ready to get down my weight. Just weight was coming down as planned. Getting ready. I want to say we left Saturday. Yeah, we left Saturday. Duels on Sunday. So Saturday, like I'm coming in, getting ready to do my final, weight cut, weight management, whatever the heck you want to call it, just to get down a little bit more, just so that way when we're going into our pre-weigh-in warm-up, I'm not as heavy, and usually I lose like 4 pounds in between that. So, I was just getting ready to do that, and Star was texting me. He's like, "Hey, before you get started with your workout, come talk to me, come see me." I'm like, "All right." So, get in the carver, go and shower real quick. I go to talk to Star. Me and Star are talking. I tell him my weight. He's like, "All right, that's good, that's good." I'm like, "All right." And then, he's like, "All right, well, we're going into Tom's office." I'm like, "No, we're going into Tom's office." I'm like, what? I thought we were just talking. So, we're going to Tom's office, and, Tom laid it out for me. He's like, so, Tom tells me about the duel and stuff. Obviously, we know about the duel. And he's like, we were thinking about putting Kennedy at 74, you at 84. And he's like, he was like, this is what I think would be the best option for this duel, just for this duel. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, let's do it. And Terry talks to me. He goes, as we're all in there, he goes, so what's your hesitancy on going 84? And I go, there is none. I looked him dead in his eyes and I said, there's nothing. I'm not hesitant about it at all. He's like, all right, well, that's that. So that was the decision to go 84. And that's honestly how I talk with. I think they were expecting it to be a little bit longer of a conversation, a little bit of convincing, but, I knew I wanted to wrestle in that duel. Why the heck wouldn't I? Like, it's just like, it's the freaking Iowa State duel. Like, so much history, like, goes behind that. It's just like, why wouldn't I want to wrestle in it? And if you guys are telling me, like, I don't know if I would have said, like, no, I want to stay 74. If I would have stayed 74, I don't know how that would have went. But, I mean, I was open to doing it. I was like, heck yeah, like, let's freaking do it, Get to wrestle Will Feldkamp, All-American last year, like, another tricky guy who's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. I'm like, frick yeah, like, let's do it, So that was the decision to go 84, and, yeah, the rest is history, I guess you could say. So.
Wow. So now you have a short time, I don't know whether you game plan much or watch film or how you approach different opponents, or some guys approach everybody a little bit differently. Some guys approach everybody the same way. But did you know much about Feldkamp, that he was a tricky guy with not junk, but, different moves, if you will? And how did you get ready in that last day or Dave?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with me, like, I watch so much wrestling already as it is. So, like, it was already, like, coaches said Will Feldkamp. I'm like, oh, okay. So, not really much of a change in game plan because Gaten's kind of a tricky guy. Feldkamp's kind of a tricky guy. I'm like, not much really changes, to be honest. So, that's the good thing is that, like, I watched so much wrestling, so I already knew what this guy brought to the table.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, me and Star watched a little bit. I knew he was a big 2-on-1 guy. I knew I didn't want to let him hang there much. So yeah, I was like going into it. I already had this idea of what he did, you know. So I didn't really have to change up a game plan or anything. You know, more than anything, it was just sticking to my guns, staying solid, not getting out of position. You know, that's what it came down to. And you know, originally, you know, my plan at 74 was to just go out there and just onslaught of offense. You know, just like break this guy. And the game plan changed a little bit just because I'm up a weight. I'm not the biggest 84. Hell, I'm not the biggest 74.
Yeah.
You know, so like the game plan in my mind changed a little bit just because I was like, I'm just gonna go onslaught of offense. Now switched up a little bit to like, we're gonna wrestle this match slow. We're gonna pick our spots right. We're gonna stay out of underhooks, stay out of 2-on-1s, stay out of overhooks, stay out of anything that favors this guy to where he can get into a position that he likes, do something tricky, put me on my back, you know. Staying solid, just stay to my guns. So the game plan changed there mentally. But so far as like the wrestling piece of it, nothing much changed. So
Okay, now like anybody who's ever wrestled in a duel, nobody's wrestled in a duel on ESPN in front of 15,000 people in I don't 82. I don't know if it's ever happened or right. You're on. This is a big deal, and everybody knows how big Iowa State is, and Iowa State's better than they've been in a long time. The rivalry's heated. The stands are full. The duel's crazy, right? You're what, match number 8, right?
yeah.
There's 3 or 4 wild ones before you. How do you just, I mean, you don't have to minute by minute, but like explain to me the nerves of maybe walking into the building, seeing the crowd, the duel starts, you know, there's last second calls, there's reviews, there's controversy. The one before you is really crazy. Kind of tell me your perspective of the duel and watching it and getting excited and involved, or some guys got to go sit in the locker room and not watch it all so they can just relax. Like what was it like for you at that duel meet?
Yeah, so I think I kind of figured out like that piece of it the week before when we wrestled Oregon State.
Yeah.
So like obviously there wasn't as many fans, you know, as there was. I don't think there was as there was at Iowa State. Obviously not. They were sold out. So I kind of figured out my way of getting ready for my match then. So for me, obviously, like I can't not watch my guys wrestle. Like this is my team. Like I don't want to not be there. So you know, I watched 25, watched 33, watched 41. So same thing I did at Oregon State was obviously we were at home for Oregon State. So in between, I went into the wrestling room between 41 and 49. So that was when I did my pre-match warm up. Even before, so I get 2 warm-ups in usually. So that's when I did my pre-match warm-up. So I did that again. Obviously, I didn't warm up this time. But to just kind of take myself out of it a little bit, come out of the limelight a little bit, and just get ready, focused on my match, that's what I had to do. So I went back in for a little bit, focused myself down, cooled off my nerves, laid down for a little bit. And so I peeked in and out of the duel, you know, went and saw the score, saw the guys wrestling, and all that. So thankfully, I had that Oregon State, you know, just that preview of what I needed to do to get myself ready, to, you know, just to know what I needed.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's super hard not to be involved. But one thing the coaches do really well of is that they remind us, you know, stay in your match. Stay in your match. It's like, don't get involved too much. Just stay in your match. And, you know, it was hard. Like you said, the 74 match, it was hard to stay in my match. Like, I'm sitting back there in the chair in the tunnel. Or not the tunnel, whatever the thing was that was over. I don't know. It was like, I guess you call it tunnel. So I'm sitting in the chair, and like I hear the thing going crazy, and like I'm looking at the score. Like at the beginning, I'm watching PK do his thing and just beat the piss out of this guy. I'm like, hell yeah! Like, put the hammer on him. You know, that third period get a little dicey, and like I'm over there trying to stay in my match, trying to stay cool and calm. I'm just like, okay, P, like, well, what are we doing here, big dog? Like, we need to do something. So it was just, like you said, it was really, really hard to stay in my match. But, you know, I think I did a really good job. You know, I just put my head down a little bit and just kind of let things, how that match transpire as it did. You know, thankfully we got the W. And so, but I think so far as the crowd goes, nothing really changed. You know, I think one thing that I do really well is that I could really care less of what people think about me or what people say about me. And obviously everyone has their own opinions about me and, the things I've said in the past and how I act during matches and X, Y, Z and all this and the things I do during matches. I just really don't care what people think about me, because at the end of the day, the only people's opinions that matter is God, my parents, and the coaches. That's all I care about, and my teammates as well. So if those opinions about me are positive, then things are going well. So the outside view, what people think, I really don't care. And it's funny that people do think I do, and when they comment on my posts and stuff and everything else, they want to talk about this and this and this. It's just, I just really don't care more than anything. And then more than anything, it's just funny that people think I do. And I think it goes for a lot of athletes like that people think that we care. We don't. So it was one of those things that, like, I knew I was going into a hornet's nest already. I knew the crowd was going to be against me. I knew I was going to have 14,000 people against me. Maybe there was a few Hawk fans sprinkled in there. But a thing that really settled me was that I knew I had my mom, my dad, and my grandma there. So that really brought me back to earth a little bit. And just knowing I had my biggest support system there really just kept me at peace. And, it just made it really easy to perform and do what I do. So,
when you wrestle matches, do you remember all of it? Do you black out? Is it somewhere in between? Like, do you remember the match?
I remember everything when I wrestle.
Everything.
Like I knew the time when I got the takedown. I think there was like 15 seconds left in the first period or something like that, 20 seconds left, somewhere in between there. I knew when I put him on his butt when I was about to get another takedown. I knew that. I knew when everyone thought I was thinking of stalling, when he was driving me out of bounds, but I don't think I ever went out of bounds one time that whole match. So yeah, I remember everything from the match. I remember getting hit for stalling, everything. Every small little detail of the match.
Going into the match, and maybe you try not to think about this, or maybe you can't help it. I don't know, but did you realize or think like, man, the duel's gonna, if I don't win, the Hawks might not win? Was any of that in your head, or is it like, man, I just got to focus on beating Feldkamp and I can't think about the rest of the stuff?
I mean, it obviously did cross my mind a little bit. I knew that me winning was going to be a big part of this duel, and the coaches wouldn't put me at 84 if they didn't think that.
Right.
So I knew that obviously Hawk fans had a lot of trust in me, coaches had a lot of trust in me, my teammates had a lot of trust in me. But knowing that the coaches thought that I would perform well at 84, that was another one of those things that just kept me at peace. So I got these guys who believe I can do it. So why the heck shouldn't I believe in myself that I can?
Yeah.
So it made things really, really easy just to go out there and perform. Like even with the whole crowd against me, like I knew I had these guys in my corner that were just like, we believe in this dude like full-heartedly that he's gonna go out there and do his job. And I told my mom this, but I mean, to be honest, I didn't really think I was gonna pull it off until I pulled it off.
Really?
So I didn't think I was going to. I was just like, all right, dude, kind of walk out. Like I think I do a really good job of just like training myself as like this big, like, oh, nothing phases me. But like, I don't know, I get the nerves a little bit,
Yeah.
And like I remember he came out to Sweet Caroline and he comes out to the mat. I'm like, this guy's kind of big, not gonna lie, I'm like looking at myself. I'm like, I'm only 5'7". This is a little interesting, but all right, we're gonna do it. And the match starts, and then like you said, like all those thoughts just black. The second that first whistle goes, like nothing, I think about nothing besides just the match. That's it. So yeah, I didn't really think I was going to be able to pull it off, but I mean, I stuck to my guns and do what I do best and pulled it off. So.
Yeah, man. At the end of the duel, right? Because you guys still got to win another match to seal it. What did that feel like right after the duel? The rest of the day, you guys probably drove back to Iowa City, but like the bus ride, getting home, like. It had to be on just kind of a high.
Yeah, we were all on a high, dude, and it was great. I mean, more than anything, and it's just funny because people tried to say that we chirped this year, and we didn't, honestly, because on paper, this is Iowa State's best team on paper, and on paper, this is our worst team on paper. On paper, right? So like it was just like we had everything against us. We had the suspensions from gambling, we had, Chittum leaving, just a lot of things that transpired over the year that led up to this duel, and everyone thinking that we weren't going to do it. But at the end of the day, winners win, and I think the Hawkeyes are a bunch of winners, and Tom Brands is a winner, and Terry Brands is a winner, and Ryan Morningstar is a winner, and Bobby Telford's a winner, and up and down our lineup, we got a bunch of winners, and that's just what we love to do. We love to just be with each other and just win. And I think it was just great to say screw what everyone thinks on paper, screw what everyone else is saying on the internet, and go out there and just freaking win. And that's what we did. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't the most flashy thing in the world, but we won. Yeah. You know what we had to do? Everyone up and down the lineup, we stuck to the guns. Even though we lost some matches we probably shouldn't have, but we won. That was just a super cool thing, and just because it was a team effort. Everyone did their job. And like I said, yeah, we had a few losses. That is what it is. That's just the sport. But everyone did their job, and we all battled, and it was just cool battling with those guys. I don't know. It was just a surreal experience just to go to war with those guys in like enemy territory, going into a hornet's nest. It was just great. And, the bus ride back, the bus driver was honking the horn, as we're driving the bus that says Iowa Hawkeyes. He's honking the horn as we're heading out of the city, hitting the highway. Even as we're, like, leaving the arena, he's, like, blaring the horn. I'm like, dude, this is just awesome. So it was just a super cool experience, just getting to experience my first Cy-Hawk duel. And, hopefully it's the first of, 4 or 5 or however many more I got left. I don't know, so.
Yeah. Man, winners win, right? And you said that made me think about, like, was there a message from Tom and company, or Terry, Morningstar, or Bobby, like, heading into the duel, right? You prepare how you prepare each, practices and whatnot, but did they ever sit you down and, hey, this is the duel, this is how we're going to approach it? You said, we didn't chirp. I know a couple years ago there was a thing at the end of the handshake. I don't know, like they said, hey, just keep to yourselves, or feed off the crowd, or if they even mentioned any of it, or if they just let you guys go do your thing. But I'm like, was there a message? Was there something the coaches kind of said to you guys heading into the game?
Honestly don't think this time there was a message, just because I think we all knew what this was. We all knew what this meant to not only to the university, but just to the state as a whole. Like, this is a big deal, and we all knew that. Like, we didn't need to be reminded that this was a huge freaking deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just all embraced that. Like, we didn't need the motivation. We didn't need, everyone, telling us that this is a big duel. Like, we knew what this was, and we knew what this meant. So there was no message really for us. We knew we had to do our job, and we knew that we wanted to come out on top. So, I mean, it just wasn't. It was just we knew what the task was at hand. I think we took care of it. So.
Sure. The handshake, the lines crossing at the end of the duel, civil, no problems.
Absolutely, no crazy business. I mean, we, as a team, I think the coaches went out and shook hands with the coaches, and I think a couple of the guys went out. But they made it very clear to us that after this last match, we're gone. We're in the locker room. We're getting ready to head out. No funny business. No shenanigans. No nothing. Get in the locker room. Let's get the heck out of here. Nothing more. Nothing less. So,
just get on the bus and start honking the horn.
Absolutely. Get on the bus and start blaring the horn. Woo! Go crazy.
As a driver.
Get some good food in you and just have a good time. Enjoy it. So enjoy the moment.
Well, that's great. It's so early in your college career and such like a big, significant moment that you probably remember forever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So good for you for that. Now, looking ahead, right? Some people, this is, the internet chirping, but, he's going to go 84. He needs to just go 84, PK at 74. Or no, he needs to redshirt. And, is there plans for this year, or is it, still in the works?
It's up to the coaches, Obviously, I have what I want to do. I want to be a national champ at 174 this year. That's big goal, that's end goal, and that's what I want to do, and I full-heartedly believe that's what I'm going to do if I'm given a chance. And if not this year, the next year. And if not next year, then the year after that. And if not the year after that, the year after that. So, I know that things are going to fall in line as they need to. And I know that the coaches have the best plan in mind for, my development as a human being, as a wrestler. And, I full-heartedly trust those guys that they're gonna take care of me. They've taken care of me since I've been here. Even before I was on this team last year, they took care of me. So there's no like, I don't second guess these guys whatsoever. They don't second guess me and my abilities. So why should I do that to them? So
Yeah.
I full heartedly believe the everything's gonna fall in line the way it needs to fall in line, and the big man upstairs is gonna make sure everything falls in line perfectly. And as this journey continues, and as my story is continued to be written, it's just everything's gonna work out the way it's supposed to.
Sure. So it sounds like it hasn't definitively been decided exactly how it's going to play out this year. Okay.
Nothing's been decided yet. It's just we still got tons of time. I still got 2 official dates to see if I'm going to redshirt or not. So we still got 2 more opportunities to see how those 2 opportunities go, and then after I've used 5, we'll make a decision from there. And if you see me going out on number 6, then there's your decision. And if not, you see me unattached wrestling at an open, then there's your decision, there's your answer. So yeah.
Okay. Do you know when the next time you're going to compete, whether it is officially or unattached?
Yeah, next time I'll be competing in the Soldier Salute. I'll be out there for that, back down at 74, just because of the way, obviously you still gotta follow the rules and the way the weight descent works. Sure. You gotta work your way down. You can't just go 84 last week and like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm gonna go 74 this week. So, and I also didn't weigh in a full 84. I weighed in at 82, and that was from me pounding water bottles. So things are perfect and gonna work out in line, like I said, the way they need to. So yeah, next time I'll be competing will be Soldier Salute. Hopefully put on another show for the home team, and yeah. So
fantastic. Well, this has been great. I got one little segment I want to do with you, little game, if you will, that we do with most guests. This is called Wins and Whoopins. All right, so thinking back to, you can go back to 5, 6 years old or 4th grade or any time in between till now. Can you think of one win in your career that stands out? It can be really significant or it can be insignificant, right? It could be like a teammate who always beats you and you beat him when you're 12. It can be beating Feldkamp in front of 14,000, anything you want. But then on the flip side, like just one ass whooping you took in a match. We've all taken them. We've all gotten pounded at some point. So can you think of one win that's memorable for whatever reason, and then just like one whooping that you took at any point, from little kid through now, and you can do either one first.
I'm sorry for win. I think one big win that stands out to me would definitely have to be freshman year, beating Travis Mastrogiovanni at Blair. So it's kind of funny because I've been beating, these, I don't want to say pinnacles in sport, but I've been beating these freaking great guys in the sport of wrestling since my freshman year of high school in their home arena. So it's just crazy how like I said, we talked about it earlier, how things come full circle. So yeah, I definitely think that was just one of the cooler moments to me, doing that in the home gym as a freshman. Just getting to have that moment with the team was super cool, even though we didn't get the dual win that year. It was just super cool just to get to do that, because I had already announced, or people already knew that I was there and I was good and had all these tools, but just doing that, I was just like, perfect. I'm here. It's gonna be a fun 4 years. So I definitely think that would definitely be like the biggest win for me and just my development. One of the whoopins, I'm actually gonna give 2. So one whooping will be actually, it was AAU National Duels. I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was my first year there. But it's funny because me and Christian Carroll used to be the same weight, and he beat the ever-living snot out of me. Like, beat me like I stole something. Like, bad. Really, really, really bad. Like, I want to say he teched me. Like, it was bad. It was just one of those, definitely one of those ass whoopings I'm never going to forget, ever. And me and Christian are pretty close, and we still joke about it, like how we used to be the same weight. And now he's wrestling heavyweight in college and freaking looks like a freaking tank. So that would be one of them. And then my second one would definitely have to be my freshman year again, getting the absolute piss kicked out of me by Patty Gallagher. at Ironman, just because I think, I was on such a high, like heading into that match. I just won, my first couple of, big high school matches at this big tournament. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting ready to wrestle Patton. I'm number one guy, or number two. Yeah, he's number two at the time because he lost to O'Toole, who's number one that year, I think. Yeah, he lost to O'Toole that year, who's number one. I'm heading into that match. I'm like I'm about to go put it on this guy. Like this is gonna be the big, like, I'm here. And then I just got the absolute piss beat out of me. I think, like, one thing I take away from that match was that, like, I joke about it, and if I'm remembering correctly, he had to go to the hospital that night to get stitches, and I want to say it was because of me. Like, I started the cut, like, on his head because I overcollar snapped him into the mat, and he had to call injury time because his head split open. So, like, that's, like, my biggest win from that match is that, like, I'm pretty sure I split his head. But then he just proceeded to just beat the ever-living piss out of me. Like, I want to say he majored me, and it was bad. Either he majored me or he was a point away from majoring me, but that was definitely one of the matches I definitely stalled a little bit. Me and the edge of the mat became really good friends that match.
Yeah.
So those are definitely my two biggest losses. I definitely had to put the one about Carol in there, and then my biggest win as well. So.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, great. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun chatting with you and getting to know you and hearing your story. But I want to leave you with the final word. You can have the floor to say anything you want about anything.
Man, I don't think I have anything besides go Hawks. And, that's about it. Keep it pretty simple. Go Hawks. Thank you for mom and dad, grandma, everyone. Glad to be a Hawk and just to keep doing what I'm doing and, enjoy what I'm doing and love what I do at the end of the day. And, I guess we'll be seeing more of me, this year and next year and the years to come. So go Hawks and let's keep this ball rolling. So.
All right. Well, awesome. Gabe, thanks so much for joining us today.
Sure.
It's been a lot of fun talking with you, and it was a lot of fun as a wrestling fan watching your match in that entire duel last weekend. Sure. So congratulations and best of luck to you moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Bader.
Yeah, you bet, man. Have a great day. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
All
See
right,
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. Gabe Arnold, big win for the Hawkeyes at the Cy-Hawk Series over Iowa State last weekend. And we're going to be seeing a lot more from this guy, just a freshman. So thank you guys for tuning in. And that's going to do it for today's show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.